Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going over the top 10 cards you should consider sideboarding for the September 2020 format. We haven't had any new product releases yet. We will have set 11 come out next month, but we have seen some slight meta shifts, so I just want to make sure you guys are prepared for this format as it continues out into October. Besides that, maybe you're a new player, maybe you're new to competitive play, maybe you need some side decking tips. This video is going to be for exactly that. So guys, if you are new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. If you guys want to help the channel out, there are many ways to do that down in the description below. Gem me at Patreon for your one-on-one coaching as well as your crosswell competitive content. If you guys need sleeves, deck boxes, binders, and that good stuff, check out Dex Protection in the description. And finally guys, TCG player to buy or pre-order any of the cards you see in today's video. Finally, there's a giveaway going over out on the community tab right now, so make sure to check that out. It's one of the more recent posts. You will definitely see it. So let's get started. So one of the biggest meta shifts we saw going back to the beginning of this week, where I covered the Top Cut Events online tournament, was the rise of Invoker. There was actually 3 Invoker in the top 8, which is actually crazy to see because across all of set 10 format, all the tournaments I've been covering, granted some have been bigger, some have been smaller, but Invoker's only topped a handful of those events, and this is going to be the largest massive Invoker that we've seen in a single top cut in the entirety of set 10 format. So I think this deck will continue to pick up popularity as we go into set 11. I think people even try to play around with it in set 11 as well, because you know, nothing inherently makes the deck weaker. It's just a matter of the question, can the deck compete in a given environment? Because the deck has all the tools it needs. It has the burn combos, it has the victory strike, has all that stuff that is quite powerful. The question just becomes, can this full power deck compete in a given environment? And it seems like in set 10, Invoker definitely can compete, even with the crazy aggro that we're seeing. So the first card I have here is All Too Easy. This is here to basically represent the drop area negates, that there are one for every color except for black, unfortunately, but luckily in set 11, black is getting a card that can help deal with victory strike, which is pretty cool. I talked about that in a video earlier this week. But anyways, All Too Easy, all the drop area negates are very important against Invoker, because Invoker has the ability through their leader to look at your hand and just remove a card, period. Twice per game they can do that via their surge effect. So the thing is, if they play victory strike, your only out to that is an extra card answer, whether it's a counterplay or a negate of some sort. So the thing there is, if your answer is a negate and then they just use the Invoker effect to look at your hand and rip the negate out, you're in big trouble, except for when you can use All Too Easy to, or any of the drop area negates to basically, you know, say, hey, you can rip this negate out of my hand, I'm still gonna be able to use it in the drop area. That's very important. Obviously Invoker is a matchup where this card shines, but this can also be pretty decent against aggro decks, you know, basically getting 2 uses out of a negate. But where this will also really shine is against hand control, because against hand control, when they're basically pitching cards out of your hand, if you can use another resource in your drop area, aka a drop area negate, that's going to actually accrue you value in the hand control matchup as well. So a few good matchups there for the drop area negates. I do actually recommend main decking one, but if you don't want to main deck one random drop area negate, I do understand it. Definitely sideboard at least 2 copies in my opinion, or if you're comfortable maining one, main one, side one. That's definitely a pretty good way to go about it in my opinion. Next up, we're talking about God Slicing Black Kamehameha. This is basically going to represent all of the 2-drop counterplays that we have. This could be God Slicing Black Kamehameha. This could be Dark Dragon Slaying Bullet. It could even be one that doesn't rely on unisons like Denial of Hope or Preemptive Strike or Hidden Potential, cards like that. And the reason these cards are important, but they really don't see any play, is because they are a bit niche in their uses, but those uses can actually stop you from losing the game, which is really important. So, you know, going back to Invoker and how prevalent Invoker has seemed to become in this format, God Slicing Black Kamehameha is going to be one of your answers to Rival Seeker Goku. Luckily, U7 Invoker has no ways to deal with extra cards except for their leader sniping them out of your hand, but when they're going to play Rival Seeker, they're not going to be able to use their leader effect in that timing. So that's going to be an advantage to you to use a card like God Slicing Black Kamehameha or any of the 2-drop extra card, you know, counter plays, right? That's going to work out quite well for dealing with Rival Seeker. Another very niche usage, but again, one that will save you from losing the game right there on the spot, is against green decks using Maiden Transformation. Now, we're not seeing a ton of green in the format, but as we saw with Invoker, I mean, just because we haven't seen something for a few weeks doesn't mean that it can't creep back up. So being stocked with your 2-drop extra card counterplays means that you have a very easy answer to the Maiden Transformation combo. Basically what that does is, it's a 4-drop extra card that plays 2 Maidens from the drop area. Your opponent will typically play 2 Rabanras or a Rabanra and a Kakunsa, and they will either rip 4 cards out of your hand with the 2 Rabanras, or they'll rip 2 cards out of your hand and pop one of your battle cards with the Rabanra and Kakunsa combo, right? So the God Slicing Black Kamehameha and the cards like it are going to basically stop the effects of those maidens because they are 4 drops or less, and most of these 2-drop extra card counterplays stop the play of 4 drops and less. So that's gonna be really important for that matchup. Again, a little bit more niche in the usage, but very important. I would recommend siding 2 copies of your deck's appropriate 2-drop extra card counterplay. At least it seems important to me. So moving on, Dark Power Black Mass Sand. This is a card that will probably forever be considered in the sideboard as long as there are decks playing things by non-keyword skills, and realistically for a competitive Dragon Ball Super deck, that's probably going to be most decks. So what is this good against? Well, one of the big matchups this is really good against is going to be Sin Shenron. Basically, playing out Dark Power Black Mass Sand is going to hinder them from recycling their negative energy Dragon Balls when their bigger dragons are removed from the board. So that's really important there. You know, removing the recyclability of Sin Shenron is a really good way to hinder the deck. Another great matchup this will serve in is AOD. They want to spam the board via the Garlic Jr. negate. When you use that, they're going to play like the Turles or the Super combo. Dark Power Black Mass Sand is essentially going to say no. If you want to do that, you're going to pitch 2 cards, and realistically, unless it's a game-winning play, no one's going to pitch 2 cards in the face of Dark Power Black Mass Sand. Pretty decent other matchups as well. Like, think about Vegex. This stops the play of both Time Agent Trunks and Supreme Kai of Time, Guardian of Space Time. So when you consider that, this is really a card that has reach in so many matchups. It's almost main deck worthy, but again, you know, main decking a black card, especially in a deck that plays different colors that aren't black, sometimes is a bit awkward. But in Vedic, for example, this is one of the best turn 1 plays against decks like AOD, against decks like Sin Shenron. So when you consider that, it's no wonder that it's a staple in the side deck you should definitely consider. Next up, Makikabora, the Broken Seal. We talked about this before. This card really does have value in just about every single matchup you can think of. I mean, there's really always going to be a card you can call with Makikabora's effect, but one of the main reasons I'm really considering this card is because with Invoker coming back into the scene, you can really call their game-ending plays, whether it's like Son Goku 6-drop or Son Goku Vegeta 8-drop, if you want to call it the Secret Rare Victory Strike. You have those options where you can basically tell your opponent, okay, you can't kill me this next turn. It's not going to work out for you. You can't play your game-winning battle card, you know, battle card and energy cost. So that being the case, Makikabora is great, but again, it's a lot like Dark Power Black Mass Sand, where this card really just has reach in most matchups. Against Mono Blue, you can call a Booney. Against Green, you can call those Rabanras. You can do a lot of different things with this card, and it's always like it's a card that you can side in when you have nothing better to sideboard, and you have a lot of dead cards in your deck for a given matchup. So very good there. Definitely want to recommend it to you once again. Next up, we're talking about answers to Bibbidi. Now, I did a whole video, I actually did 2 videos talking about how to counter Vegex, so definitely go check those out in the strategy series playlist if you're interested in learning more about that particular matchup. But regardless, I want to talk about Westcott Keeping Watch and Negotiator Krillin. Westcott Keeping Watch is a generic out to Bibbidi that any deck can play, because even though it is blue, you're never charging it, you're never, you know, using its energy cost to play it. You're always just comboing with it, and then you're going to bounce Bibbidi back to the opponent's hand. That's going to nullify all of Bibbidi's combo power. Now, the unfortunate thing about that is they will have that Bibbidi to use once again for either another attack, or if it was their last attack of the turn, they will have the Bibbidi for defense, which can be pretty annoying. But the nice thing, once again, is it's a generic card that any deck can play. Now, when you look at a green deck, if you're playing a green deck like, you know, mono green hand control, it could be any of the green color combinations, blue, green, yellow, green, even though those aren't too popular in the format right now, but you can side deck this card if you're happening to play a rogue deck like that. But besides that, you can also play this in AOD, which I think is actually really cool as well. So Negotiator Krillin basically does a similar thing to Westkai, but instead of bouncing it back to the hand, it actually removes Bibbidi from the combo area and puts it in the drop area. That's just obviously better. I mean, this does cost an energy because it has to be comboed from the battle area, which is why you can only play it in a green deck. But besides that, if you're playing green, you should definitely be side decking this card because Vegex is uber powerful right now. We don't know what's going to happen with Bibbidi on the set 11 ban list. Hey, that ban list might even come out today, and we'll see what ends up happening with that. But regardless, while Bibbidi is still in the format until set 11 is released, Negotiator Krillin is going to be an incredible card in green. Westkai Keeping Watch will be good in all the other color decks that really just need an answer to Bibbidi. Next up, I want to talk about our board wipes. These are going to be good for the go wide decks. To a degree, Vegex, really AOD. That's going to be an important matchup where you're going to want your board wipes. Now, your options for board wipes, your more generic ones, Kami Global Unifier, Unexpected Turn. In red, you have the SSB Kaioken Concentrated Destruction Goku, as well as SS Vegeta Exploiting Weakness. A lot of those cards on the more expensive side, especially the red ones, but besides that, Kami, Unexpected Turn, very budget, very cheap board wipe cards that you can play to out certain decks that go wide on you. Another anti-go wide card, but also has the slight flexibility of hitting taller threats, is going to be Secret Identity Mass Sand. And this card is going to be particularly great for dealing with blue decks with Obuni, because you can warp all their tokens as well as the Obuni. So you're kind of warping a taller threat, and then maybe if they have another 1-drop or 2-drop on the field, you can get rid of that as well. But because it adds up to 6 cost, it is a token sweeper, and token sweepers are quite good right now. Look at Dormant Potential Unleashed in green decks. That's great against Obuni. So having Secret Identity Mass Sand in the side deck, especially for decks not too dependent on the drop area, is going to pay dividends for you. And finally, guys, I would like to talk about Shroud and Mystery. I talked about it before as kind of like a budget SCR, but really it's great as a 1 of in any main deck or even a 2 of in the side deck, because so many decks just can't answer it. The only real one that can deal with Shrouded and completely stop its effect is going to be blue with God Sealing Technique Trunks, and that can be annoying. But for every other matchup of every other color, think about, you know, Sin Shenron that goes super late game. Think about hand control. Think about even Vegex if you can stall them to a late game. Shroud's going to come down and say, hey, you can't use any negates, you can't use any super combos, no Bibbidis, no Dormant Potential, nothing like that, and it's going to pretty much wrap up the game for you. So, guys, hopefully this helps you consider some new side deck cards that maybe you weren't thinking about, or maybe if you're new to competitive Dragon Ball, maybe this helps you out a lot. Let me know in the comments below what you think about this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.